So, what's up, y'all? Welcome to episode 4. My name's Austin Jordan, you already know, narrator, and we are going to be going over a topic that I said we would cover last episode, which, before we get, I'm going to turn the thing down a little. So, whenever we did episode 3, if y'all didn't notice, I hope y'all watched it, or else you wouldn't be right here right now, but, I actually did it a little different, because I was in the building whenever I did the lesson. So, I want to give a few analysis notes on that. I'm hoping I did good. Audio cut out. I might do something like that again later on. But today I want to talk about a name that I brought up when we were there. Or I wouldn't say brought up, but more kind of talked about. And his name is right here. And that's actually going to be the label for episode 4 today. Who is Horace Piazza? I think I'm saying that right. So I did something a little more different today. I actually got a photo, printed out, and if you look at the thumbnail, you'll see this photo too. But this right here is Horace Piazza. He was born in 1929 and he died in 2016. I will, in case you can't see it, it's probably going to fall. But I will have a little side photo right here, which y'all guys seem to like screenshot those to keep in y'all's memory books. I'm using sticky tack, so I don't know how long it's to stay up there. So, who was Horace Piazza? We'll just call him Horace for now. But his occupation was an architect. I'm not spelling this right at all. I am not spelling this right. Architect. Don't judge me, okay? So, he was an architect, and he was another one of the major people in Bryan Public Schools because he was, not only was he a student at Bryant Schools whenever it was first 5 buildings, but whenever the buildings burnt down, he actually, as his name implies, he actually was like the designer, pretty much. He painted the canvas, he sketched the canvas for the builders to build. So he pretty much made the layouts that we use for the newer buildings. But because he passed in 2016, some of the buildings that have been around after his retirement are still here. Some of the buildings here on campus include, I will go ahead and write it down. He was a part of Building 8, Building 3, 18, 17. He did Building 1. Oh wow, that's a little too close to call that 81. He did 1. He also was in part with Building 23, 22, which 23 is the ROTC building, 22 is the Industrial Arts building, which we use it for coding now. I think he helped with building, no, never mind. These are the buildings that we have today. These 7 buildings that stand today that he was a major part of. But some buildings, which I will change colors here, change into the other color, I have a bunch of black. He also was responsible for Building 2, Building 4. He was responsible for Building 21 and Building 20. He was responsible for Building 13, which y'all are wondering, well, these buildings don't stay on campus no more. Yeah, I learned that there's a couple more buildings than what I did when I did research, which I did find some pretty cool stuff. I will get to that in a minute. But he pretty much made these buildings here come to life. Now I will say that Building 8, the placard says it was built by a different architect. He was a different architect. But things changed because they had he built Hotel and Motel 8. So I'm going to put that right there by here with H&M. He built Hotel 8 and Motel 8. He pretty much designed the buildings. And whenever they got rid of Motel 8 and Hotel 8, Building 8, he didn't make. Because the new Building 8 was made in 1990. Motel 8 had been around since the 70s. Mr. Horace was, like I said, he was a student at the Bryant Public Schools. So, that's pretty much all I can really say. There's not much on his name. That's why this might not be cut as long as he did. But, yeah, like I said, he was an architect for Bryant Public School District. Pretty much, if they need something made, they go to this guy for it. If they needed a building for science, if they needed a building for history, English, elective, this is the guy they would go to design that. As a matter of fact, he designed one of the older Hornet logos, which was kind of something he did for a doodle, but actually became one of the Hornet logos. I'll go ahead and put that right here. It's not the very first logo of Bryant. In fact, I did find that one today. But not only was he an architect for Bryant schools, and he's also a student, but Bryant High School was his very first thing he ever did. And after his success of building the buildings for Bryant High School, the original, which there's only a few buildings for it, he actually built the University of Arkansas campus. He built tons of libraries. He built tons of other buildings that are used in Little Rock. And he did a lot. After his major success with Bryant High School, he moved to other schools. He moved to colleges. He moved to small businesses. He designed a lot of things. In fact, this ain't an official fact, but I do know that there is evidence. But Horace actually took part in building downtown Benton, which that's a whole nother topic for a whole nother video, whole nother series. If y'all want me to get into Benton, then please let me know, because I grew up in Benton. Just drop my marker lid. So, what was some of the things that he had in creation, things he had in mind? So, I'm going to draw this out. So, me and my buddy Caleb today, we went through some papers, which before that we went to look through some of the school's archives with the principal. Shout out to Mr. Barksdale. He's awesome. He's helped me out with a lot of this. He started supporting me from the start to now. He's been the main go-to person, so just a big shout out. But we went through some of the blueprints. He got me a couple of the blueprints from the buildings that went down to the buildings that were kept to this day. Horace did a lot of that work. So, I'm going to run you down real quick, kind of what he did. We're going to go ahead and put this into another lesson of we're going to go back to 1960 to about 1975. Or no, about 1970. So, as you would know, the school, before in one of the episodes I said, it was two different schools. It was multiple schools put into that campus. You had the middle school, the junior high, and the high school. And then you had elementary, which was Salem, which is not part of the campus. It was Joe Lyman Elementary School then, but not now. But pretty much how it started out was the very first project, which was the former... I'm going to try to sketch this out to my best ability. It looks something like this. This right here, I'm clumsy today, y'all. I'm sorry. This right here, now I'm just going to put this here for trees. This right here was Building 2. Building 2 had your classrooms such as Now this is new information, by the way, so if you want to take notes, please take notes. Building 2 held the original library. It was the main high school building. As a matter of fact, this was the high school building around 1940, 1950. Why did I say 40? It's after the old buildings burnt down when they built this. This was the next thing built right after. The main high school building. These magnolia trees, like I said before, they're still here today. In building 2, you held things such as your reading classrooms. You held mathematics, old library, the old office. You held stuff like that. This is pretty neat, because I didn't know this, but if you looked right here, there was this little bit of a box, what it looked like. Now, there was a little breezeway that went straight through here, and this right here was building 4, which was connected. Building 4, which I did not know this, was the gym. You might be thinking, well, Austin, that can't be right, because right over here is building 1. You're right. There was 2 gyms. This gym was mainly girls, and this gym was mainly boys. Now, they usually do transitions back and forth, making this boys that, girls that, boys that, girls. It went back and forth. I got this information from a teacher. Did not, just for the safety, did not want their information disclosed publicly. Then you had this building right here, which I think, I have it in my notes. That was actually, I'm looking at this right here. I will go ahead and show you. This right here is a map from 1993, 1994 of the campus. I took notes on it too. This right here is building 5. And this right here did not extend out. That's building 5. Okay, and that was a cafe. That was the 11th and 12th grade cafe. Right here about building 4, and this building still stands today. Surprisingly, it's dirt old. It's probably one of the smaller buildings. Building 3. Building 3, which it was then, still is to this day, is biology and physics and your common science needs other than things like anatomy. That was a whole nother part of campus. You had this open area, which I'm not going to go all the way down. You had building 8. Which building 8 was, again, this was Motel 8. This was part of Motel 8. And it kind of intersected straight through here. Which, right here, I'll take these down just for a second. It kind of cut through here, making right here be the original building 8. Which still stands to this day after some remodeling. What you're looking at here was actually what they called the South Campus. Horace designed these buildings right here specifically to be for the grades 11 through 12. So around the time, and this stayed pretty current until about 2012, 2013. This stayed pretty concurrent. Okay, now this of course, almost outdated enough. You had this for your South Campus. You know what? Just so we can kind of redraw this out, I'll go ahead and take down this photo. We'll put it right here. You might still be able to see it. Yep. If it doesn't stay, I'm sorry. But I will go ahead and kind of give you the detail on how this was laid out. We're talking about the architectural buildings. We're talking about the architectural type stuff. Which, by me digging into this, this is the campus. Now, campus 1994 was literally the same campus as 1960s era. So there's not much that changed within then, other than just how teachers taught and where buildings were. So this right here, I will draw it again. This was your main gym. Okay. Picture this right here being Reynolds Road, which still stayed there. And then picture right over here being towards the middle school field, which that never changed at all. There's old photos from 50s where it was still there. You have building 1, okay? And then not too far from it, you had building 2, which actually I shaped it completely wrong. It was a really wonky shaped building, I'll say that. They said it was shaped like an L, but it was not really an L shape. It branched out everywhere almost. That's definitely not accurate. I think this part connected. Yeah. This kind of just connected into this A-shaped building that you're looking at to this day. If I gotta see a flash that's kind of like over crossing my thing, it's because my phone's going off. I have flash on. This right here was building 2. And this right here was the courtyard where the trees were. Which them 3 trees, like I said, still stand today. I'm not going to get back into it because I've already talked about it about 3 times. So this was building 2, practically. So just a quick recap. Building 1, common gym. Then it was pretty much where girls played and then boys played. Transition between 2 gyms. Building 2, this was like your main high school building. This was also like high school's alternate gym. But building 2 is where you learn math and English. This is your common core classes. You had this little area right here, which was building 4. Building 4, as I've already said before, is the gym that they transferred from. Building 3 was sciences. This right here was building 5, which was the cafeteria for 11 through 12. You had Hotel 8, which was right about here. This right here is where 11th and 12th would do their world history, social studies, stuff like that. This little hugging building around it right here, which was actually Motel 8. This ain't geography accurate. This is just in order of their appearance. Like, building 5 isn't this close to 8. Right here, right behind 8, you had the infamous building 9, which was the EL Auditory. I'm just going to call it the EL Auditory because that's what it was, Edward Love Auditorium. So if you think this is where that is, okay, right here you'd say building 10 was. Building 10 did not exist. That's what this was for. So they had this congregational building here in the middle, referred to as building 11. This is where they also taught English, they taught math, they taught some of your basic classes that you'd expect. Stage management was this class in Edward Love. They didn't have like scene shops and stuff like that, which Mr. Clay said in his interview, that's what he requested. They did mainly just like stage play. Everything practice was there. They never had a black box theater, they never had any of that. It was a small little area, and the band rooms actually there's a breezeway in the back. There's a breezeway right here, which connected the band rooms, which was part of 9. In fact, you could pretty much call it 9.1. Because that's pretty much what it was. There was no Hornet Arena. Okay. Safe to say that. This is where it got confusing. Because you had building 10, which was an actual building. Building 10 right here. Keep in mind where I'm about to draw this dotted line. is where they kind of separated the campuses. This is where they separated campus to be grades 11 through 12. Well, I need to rephrase that, because at this period of time, it was grades 10 through 12. And this was grades 9 through 7. What you're about to see over here was 9 through 7. You had an air duct room, which there was no number on that building. You, of course, would have your average buildings. I'm going to go ahead and write it because we're running out of room. But you had a building right here. This is building 18. Still stands to this day. Boom, you have this very sophisticated looking building right here. Boom, this is building 17. These connected. As a matter of fact, this also draws its own little line right here. Because this right here, it was weird because at one point, yeah, I'm on my knees. This is kind of weird. This was actually at one point for middle school and elementary, which is when Mr. McKenzie grew up here. I did an interview with him last time. That's what this was. You had your freaking 15, which was right here and still stands to this day. This was the science building for 7th and 9th. This was also where anatomy was. Keep in mind, students have to walk across campus either way. Nothing was set in stone. Not at the time there wasn't. On this side, it's not. I'm going to try to draw the best I can to get to it. This right here was the technical building, which was 22, industrial arts. And then you actually had two buildings right here. And they are both gyms. This building and this building was buildings 21 and 20. This is for boys and this was for girls. Behind building 10 you have building 12, which was right here. It is kind of connected to 17 in a way. But this right here was the other cafe. So this is where they merged 9 through, yeah, they pretty much merged. They merged like 9 all the way to 9 to, I think of 9 to K actually. And at the time there was a lot of tables outside. Building 11 had its own rec area too, so that's where you could go if you couldn't fit everybody in there. So you gotta think, everything was kind of, it was wonky. So if you really count, and then there's this one building that I was introduced to that was unnumbered right here, but it was its own little building, owned everything. This box, that's just the reason where it is. It was called the Student Center, I think is what the teacher said. And she said that's where they had like the best food, that's where students could congregate. Sounded pretty cool. But that was pretty much your campus layout. Keep in mind, this same man right here came up with the idea of all this. Now, that's whenever things changed up and they built the middle school. They transitioned all these kids to the middle school. This is when these buildings just stayed there for a bit. They tore down. I'll show you a sneak peek real quick. I'm going to show you every building that is torn down right now. As of right now, none of these buildings exist. This building don't exist. And I'm talking about their form as right now. These buildings are completely dismissed. They remodeled this building. They took out these buildings. They swiped all these buildings completely. All of that was removed. And here's the really funny thing. Now this is a good way to look at it historically. But if you were to get rid of every building that was demolished or taken away, from the original form of the 50s, the buildings that have been standing, you come down to the conclusion that there's only, and this building's obviously destroyed too, you can come to the conclusion that there's only so very few old buildings that still stand to this day. You had your building 17 and building 18, which they still stand to this day. I'll kind of sketch them back out for you. 17 and 18 still stand to this day. 15 still stands to this day. Building 22 stands to this day. Building 3 stands to this day. And then Building 1 stands to this day. And something crazy, now this is going to be something I'm going to reference in the future video, which is going to be probably one of the last episodes to be released on this docu-series. But you'll get kind of a glimpse of the future of Bryant and what they're planning. Okay, I know a little bit about what they're planning and how they're going to do it. And this right here, let's just say this had a drastic turn. But yeah, I think everything that I just showed you from the architectural placement and from who had the ideas came from this man right here. That man created so many things. But one of the very first things he created, and he actually got surprisingly awarded for, was Building 1 gym, which I will go ahead and flash a few photos here. These are all from the interview. If these photos look familiar, yeah, I'll put them in a slideshow at the very end. But yeah, pretty much. And then, if you look at the map then versus the map now, a lot of them buildings are kind of just faded. You compare, and the thing is, half of these buildings right here, Horace, whenever he retired, he passed away in May of 2016. But yeah, I think he lived from 1929. He made it to about maybe his 80s, I think. But he knew Edward Love personally. He had, again, a major role in Bryant's history and how it changed. He was there from the start. He's a student whenever the school was in its prime before the fire. And most importantly, he's the reason why we have what we have today. So, just like every conclusion video, we're going to do a quick recap. And there's not much that I have not covered already. He was an architect. He was a student at the Bryant High School. Designed almost every building. He knew Edward Love personally. He also, what was the other factor? There's one more I'm thinking of. He designed the entire campus, including Bryant Middle School. That was one of his also major creations, was the Bryant Middle School. The reason how you can tell is because if you look at every building, I'm gonna get my blue marker. If you go to any building in the district, you're probably gonna see something like this on the building. let me show an example here. You're gonna see something like that. It's not easy to tell what it is, but it's pretty much a blue. I'll draw it out with no color. Picture this as a filled-in square, but in white you have a number. You will see those on every building in the district. Something about them buildings, though, is that the buildings that you see that have the numbers, if they're... How do I put this without sounding phony? Because it's truth, but it sounds bad. Every building with a number like that, Horace had a part of. Now, some of the newer buildings do have that number on them, but it's because they took them off the old buildings and smacked them onto the new ones. But the Bryant Middle School, if you look at the old elementary school, it has numbers just like that. They range from building 41, building like 39, 38, 42. And then there's one which is actually part of both campuses. Building 40. Which I'm not going to get too deep into that for a reference video that's going to pop up in the future. But building 40 is the field house. The field house is pretty much where, of course, players would practice. I'm not going to draw out the inside yet. That's for the next time. So yeah, that's your recap on who he was, and I will repeat it again. Horace Piazza was born in 1929. He was an architect. He is a student. He was a former student at the Bryant Public Schools. I don't know why I said HS. He designed almost every building that we have today. He knew Edward Love personally, which that's probably why he had such a role in Bryant. But he designed the entire campus, including the middle school. If we didn't have anyone who was like him, we probably wouldn't have the campus we have today. If I'm gonna be completely honest, that's why I consider Mr. Horace one of the biggest important roles in Bryant. My name's Austin Jordan. This was episode 4 of Horace Piazza, and just because I talked about it a little bit too, and what he did. Because that's pretty much, I just showed you the entire old campus. My name's Austin Jordan. Thank you for watching. Please consider watching the past episodes to now, and just be sure to subscribe so you can see future episodes pop up, because they will be coming in fast and fast. I have a very important one that's coming out very soon, and it's going to be over a pretty big thing in Bryant. If you go to the schools, you know it. If you go to Bryant, you definitely would know it. But yeah, until next time, peace.